I love Jamie. Jamie is the funniest one out of everybody, I think.
He was a real liability. He's just too funny. Sometimes, we made a mistake. We cast somebody that was too funny.
There's certainly plenty of takes that were busted because Jamie Demetriou did something ridiculous and everyone had to look down and were like, oh, I can't use this shot.
Timber! Listen, we're talking about Ben Schwartz. We're talking about John Early. We're talking about Tiffany Haddish. We're talking about Ilana Glazer. We're talking about Ike Barinholtz. We're talking about Kelvin Yu. We're talking about Sam Richardson, Dave Franco. I mean, literally everywhere you looked was one of the funniest and most amazing performers around. And I felt like a button that had been lost in among them.
Nothing can ruin this night.
The Afterparty is an 8-episode series where a murder takes place at an afterparty from a high school reunion, and each of the suspects gets to tell their version of what happened that night to a detective played by Tiffany Haddish. Each suspect's story is told in a different film style that matches their personality.
Give us some examples, Ike.
You want some examples? Here you go.
Yeah.
Boom. Sam Richardson. His character is head over heels in love with Zoe's character. And his story is kind of that of a rom-com, right? Me, Brett, was a jock in high school, cool guy. Now, not so cool. Life kind of falling apart. But I still see myself as the star of an action movie. So my episode might feel like you're watching, maybe The Fast and Furious 9 or Out for Justice starring Steven Seagal, one of my personal favorite action movies. But in reality, he's just a sad divorced man.
We meet Zoe, and she is at a crossroads. She's sort of finding herself in a transition, recently estranged from her husband, high school sweetheart, played by Brett, who's kind of full of hot air. And she's newly single, a single mom, and finds herself in a job she had never envisioned for herself. She's a high school administrator at the same school she attended 15 years prior. She's an artist who is not practicing her art. She feels pretty far away from all the things that make her tick. And I think she's reflecting on this last chapter as having played it really safe. And she doesn't want to do that anymore. She wants to have some fun, be single. She's excited about this reunion, and she wants to do things she's never done before. That's how we meet Zoe.
Oh, I love that song.
You two look like you're having fun.
Hey.
Hey, Xavier, how you doing?
You're really famous.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm kind of getting swarmed or whatever. Everybody wants a piece of X to see. Did you get it?
Oh, yeah, no, I did. I got it.
Xavier was not the coolest kid in high school. He was in a ska band called Scape Diem, loosely translated to Ska the Day. He desperately wanted to be popular, but his desperation kind of pushed everyone away and isolated him even more. And then he grew up and redefined himself and went from ska to pop music, and he bleached his hair and kind of took on a whole new persona and became one of the biggest stars in the world. And then he comes back to this high school reunion with this new confidence and kind of overcompensating for all the stuff that happened to him in high school. But for tonight, Mikasa, I mean, you know how the rest of that goes. Whoa!
Jasper is a person that when he was in high school, he had a ska band with Dave Franco's character, Xavier, and all he wanted to do was concentrate on music. And it's that high school thing of thinking that you could become the next biggest pop star, the biggest ska star is what he was at the beginning. So like all those dreams are there, and then as his life went through, like many of us, what happens is that you realize you can't be this thing. You know, 1 out of every million people gets to actually be a successful musician. So his dreams are kind of dashed. And when he sees Dave Franco actually become famous, his dreams start to come anew again, which is really exciting. So for him, this after party is trying to get Dave to sing on one of his tracks so he can kind of blow up and stuff like that.
I'm telling you a story here. I'm building character arcs, dynamics.
Detective Danner is a young woman who wants to walk in her father's footsteps, but she's doing it differently. You know, she doesn't follow the conventional way of the average detective or police officer, for that matter. She believes in really upholding the law And she believes that she can solve any case by using her intuition, her listening skills, because you want to be the person that everyone feels comfortable telling everything to. But then she'll lock your ass up if you did something you ain't had no business. So be careful. Oh, we're done here. I'm guessing you're Anik.
She's good.
Anik's perspective is told through a rom-com because Anik is a hopeless romantic, and I wouldn't even say reform nerd, but now like a more confident in himself nerd who designs escape rooms, but is coming back to high school to hopefully right a wrong of missed love from his high school days.
Did you see her hair? It looks like she made out with a tornado. It's just Jewish hair.
So much volume. Chelsea is someone who had an idea of how her life was going to turn out, and when it didn't, she spiraled. She is a mess and a train wreck, and in the series, we see her origin story of when things took a turn for the worst. She was class president and was really popular in high school. And then something went down among the gang that we explore.
What matters is that I have some plans for Xavier tonight.
What does that mean?
Remember St. Patrick's Day at your uncle's house?
My uncle lives in Tucson. You flipped out, right?
It's been a downward spiral for the 15 years from that point. You know, as Alana Wexler in Broad City, she's so confident and so secure, and people think I am that way in real life. And I am at times, but I also have like major insecurity and harshness toward myself. And I really related to that with Chelsea. It was really therapeutic to play that. And then to have that performance held so tightly by the psychological thriller genre was so satisfying.
I'm worried about you. Everyone seems to think you did it.
Everyone. It's all anyone's talking about. Sorry, you're you. That's not fun.
Walt is the kind of non-entity character that I play. He is a kind of beige guy who hasn't worked out how to imbue himself with any kind of color in his life. Hence his seeming invisibility to everyone he's ever met. He is arriving at a high school reunion, having never really met anyone to reunite with when he was in high school. And I think he's coming praying that things will be different this time, and it doesn't look so great for him.
Chris Miller has been sitting with this story in his head for a very long time.
Well, I've always been a huge fan of the murder mystery genre. I grew up reading Agatha Christie books and watching Columbo and Murder, She Wrote, and watching movies like Clue and Last of Sheila, and so I've always just been obsessed with puzzles and all that sort of thing, and so I've always wanted to try and figure out how to do something in that space. But it wasn't until the idea that you could have each of the suspects tell their version of the night and have it sort of move the narrative forward as an idea, the thing that got me really excited. And then I went to a high school reunion and it seemed like a great place to set a murder mystery because there's a lot of emotions running around there. So that whole mashup sort of came together, and then it just sort of evolved over the years into this, which I think is, its best self.
It started as a feature, and the thought of even then it was, it had this like Rashomon element to it. And then, turning it into a series gave us the opportunity to really take each episode and really like dig in to each character. And then in so doing, you go like, oh, I bet we could give it its own cinematic style. And it just sort of took off from there.
It's a challenge, but also like a fun exercise to like approach it the exact same scene, or like, slightly different here and there, but like with a completely different intention and like from a different person's perspective of you, which changes how this person like navigates the world. Because of course we see ourselves differently than how anybody else sees us. So to get to like actually do that and play that repeatedly is like a really fun exercise in acting and like in sort of like script analysis and all that sort of thing to kind of get to go back over with these different like coats of paint on the same canvas.
I give Chris so much credit because yes, we are essentially telling the same story over and over, but it doesn't ever get stale. Like he finds ways to make it feel fresh and the story continues to progress and he's laying in these little Easter eggs and these clues along the way. It's just an unbelievable puzzle.
We couldn't have been in more capable hands. Lord and Miller are they're geniuses.
Chris Miller is a golden god, and anything him and Phil do, I will jump into blindly. I also love the coat of paint metaphor a lot.
I was happy with it. I was like, that is right.